Today we step into one of the most mysterious and unsettling episodes in all of the Bible. A battle not over land, kingdoms, or riches, but over a body, the body of Moses. In the short letter of Jude, verse 9, the veil is lifted just enough for us to glimpse a staggering reality. The Archangel Michael locked in dispute with Satan himself, contending for the mortal remains of God's great prophet. This raises a haunting question. Why would Satan, the adversary of souls, desire the body of Moses? And why would God send one of heaven's greatest warriors to intervene? Clearly, this was no trivial matter. Hidden within this story is a prophetic truth, a warning about the enemy's strategies, and a revelation of God's protective hand over his servants, even after death. Moses, of course, was not an ordinary man. His life was marked by miracles that shook empires and reshaped history. Chosen by God to confront Pharaoh, Moses became the voice of deliverance for a nation enslaved for 4 centuries. Through him, plagues fell on Egypt, each one exposing the weakness of false gods. By his staff, waters turned to blood, the Red Sea split open, and bread rained from heaven. He was not only Israel's liberator, but also their lawgiver, ascending Mount Sinai to receive the 10 Commandments, the foundation of God's covenant with his people. And yet, for all his closeness with God, Moses was still human. In a moment of anger, he struck the rock when God had told him only to speak. That disobedience carried weighty consequences. Moses was allowed to see the promised land, but not to enter it. At the end of his life, he stood on Mount Nebo, gazed at the land flowing with milk and honey, and then quietly passed away. The book of Deuteronomy tells us that God himself buried Moses, and no one knows the location of his grave. That detail is extraordinary. Nowhere else in Scripture do we find God personally performing a burial. Why conceal the resting place of Moses? Because something deeper was at stake. Jude reveals that Satan attempted to claim the body. What could the devil want with the remains of a man? The possibilities are sobering. First, Satan may have sought to corrupt Moses' future glory. Centuries later, on the Mount of Transfiguration, Moses appeared beside Elijah, speaking with Jesus in radiant glory. If Satan could interfere with Moses' destiny, he might derail part of God's plan. Second, the devil could have turned Moses' body into an idol. Israel had a history of misdirected worship, the golden calf, the bronze serpent. Signs meant to point to God often became objects of veneration themselves. Imagine what would have happened if Israel had possessed Moses' tomb. Pilgrimages, offerings, perhaps even worship directed to the man instead of the Creator. Satan knew the danger of misplaced devotion. Third, the body of Moses symbolized God's covenant and leadership. To corrupt it would be to tarnish the testimony of God's salvation story. But Satan is also the accuser. Revelation calls him the one who stands day and night to condemn God's people. Moses, though mighty, had faults. He killed an Egyptian. He broke the tablets of the law. He failed to honor God at Meribah. Satan could have used the body of Moses as a symbol of failure, an eternal reminder of imperfection, to discredit both the man and the God who called him. Yet in that climactic moment, Michael the Archangel confronted Satan. The text says Michael did not dare bring a slanderous accusation, but declared instead, "The Lord rebuke you." This is crucial. Michael, though powerful, relied not on his own strength, but on the authority of God. That single declaration shattered Satan's claim. Moses' body remained hidden, untouchable, preserved by God's own decree. What does this teach us? First, it reveals the depth of spiritual warfare. The battles we read about in Scripture are not only historical, they echo into the unseen realms where angels and demons contend. Satan is relentless, looking for any opening to corrupt, accuse, or distract. Yet God's authority is supreme. When Michael invoked the Lord's name, it was a reminder that no evil can stand against divine sovereignty. Second, the story warns us of the danger of idolatry. If the Israelites were vulnerable to worshiping golden images, how much more easily could they have turned Moses into a shrine of false devotion? God's decision to hide Moses' body was an act of mercy, preserving the people from a trap Satan longed to set. Our faith must be fixed on God alone, not on symbols, objects, or even great leaders. Third, the episode underscores the greatness of God's grace. Moses failed, But God still honored him, protecting his body and later allowing him to stand in glory with Christ. Satan may accuse us of past sins, but God's grace silences the accusations. Our failures do not erase God's plans. His mercy is stronger than the enemy's condemnation. Finally, it reminds us where true strength lies. Michael did not win the battle through angelic might, but through reliance on God's authority. In our own struggles, we are not called to confront the enemy in our power, but to stand in the victory of Christ. As Scripture says, resist the devil and he will flee from you. Not because of us, but because of the one who fights for us. The hidden burial of Moses, the dispute between Michael and Satan, the victory declared in God's name, all of it points us to one truth. The Lord protects what belongs to him. Nothing escapes his care, nothing can thwart his plan, and nothing, not even the schemes of hell, can separate us from his love. So when you face accusations, when the enemy whispers reminders of your failures, remember the lesson of Moses' body. Satan may try to claim, to corrupt, to condemn, but God's authority speaks louder. The Lord rebuke you. In that declaration lies freedom, protection, and victory. May this truth strengthen your heart today. The same God who buried Moses, the same God who defended his body from Satan's grasp, is the God who guards your soul and preserves your destiny. His authority is final, his protection is sure, and his love endures forever.